There's footage that went viral of you getting taken out and escorted out of the game. So take us to the moments leading up to that. What exactly happened?
The Dallas Mavericks are using what I would consider a heavy hand to put down the fans' response, to not let them grieve.
The Dallas Mavericks have been an unmitigated disaster following the Luka Doncic trade. And right when we think this is over, it just escalates and gets worse and worse and worse. So before we get to the content, we are launching a baseball channel called Uni Diamond Talk. In order to celebrate this new channel, we're giving away 10 copies of MLB The Show to a subscriber that turns on their notifications on that channel. Just go to the latest video and comment that you did it once you did it. And now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Ever since I've gotten this sponsorship, I've been trying to figure out a way to game the system so I can earn my subscribers money, and I finally did it this past week. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you all the messages I've been receiving over the past few days as a result of all the people making money with my picks. I have a model that has exponentially increased our hit rate, and if you don't believe me, just look at my DMs. I mean, people have been blowing up my DMs with all the money they've been making. We made thousands of dollars on Prize Picks this past week, but use my promo code microphone when you sign up for Prize Picks to get $50 when you make a play of $5 or more. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? When Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris were traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Max Christie, Anthony Davis, and a 2029 first-round pick, people were very skeptical. I mean, I've said this multiple times on this channel. When you trade a potential face of the NBA, you should at the very minimum get 8 first-round picks in return. But Nico Harrison wasn't able to do that. The result was a pretty wild reaction from all of society and many theories on the matter. In our last video, we showed you Mark Cuban trying to explain to Bill Gates what the Mavericks just did.
If after you left Microsoft, you found out that Steve Ballmer traded Windows 11, like the new hot operating system, for Windows 10, the Hall of Fame, but older operating system, what would you do?
We showed you this video of Jason Kidd looking just depressed following the press conference Nico Harrison gave rationalizing the Luka Doncic trade. And to make things go from bad to worse, Anthony Davis gave the Dallas Mavericks the best 3 quarters that he possibly could to make Mavs fans feel a little bit better. And then he was ruled out possibly for the remainder of the season.
Anthony Davis is going to be out for a while. I believe, as of we sit here right now, that he has avoided surgery. I believe that's the current plan. But I also believe that is going to be a significant period. What does significant mean? Weeks and weeks. So,
and things would just go from bad to worse. I mean, currently PJ Washington is questionable for the Mavericks. Daniel Gafford's out. Dante Exum's questionable. Caleb Martin, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, and Dwight Powell are all out. And the morale surrounding the Dallas Mavericks has never been worse. Fans are still trying to rationalize the Luka Doncic trade. Me personally, if we're really putting the tinfoil hat on, I really think that this trade was done to boost the NBA's ratings, just based upon people's general vibe around basketball before the trade and after the trade. You just can't compare the two. People were upset at the lack of rivalries. People were angry at how these stars were being pampered and given these guaranteed contracts while they were complaining about working too much or playing too much. Players like Zion Williamson or Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons, for instance. So my personal theory, and this is just if I am putting the tinfoil hat on, was this trade had to have been done for ratings. But other fans think that this trade may have been done by Mavericks ownership to squeeze Texas to allow them to promote gambling in their state. Apparently, Miriam Adelson originally wanted to bring gambling to the Dallas area, something that Texas has been vehemently against in the past. And once Texas said no, Miriam Adelson decided to trade Luka Doncic to make a statement. Again, this is not a trade that makes sense on an NBA level, but it is a trade that could make sense outside of the NBA from an ownership level. So fans were wondering whether or not the Dallas Mavericks may even potentially move to Las Vegas as a result of this recent decision. And according to Mavericks Governor Patrick Dumont, that's not what the plan is.
The Dallas Mavericks are not moving to Las Vegas. There is no question in that. That the answer.
Now, personally, I would have trust issues if I'm a Mavericks fan at this point. Fans were still trying to ask for answers from the Dallas Mavericks. Was this a financially motivated trade? Because it's so hard to find a star player that's generational that is down to stay with your team for his entire career. And according to Luka Doncic, he said he wanted to sign that contract extension with the Mavericks originally.
There's a chance you might not agree to the Supermax extension. Did you or anyone on your inner circle indicate that that might be the case?
Absolutely not.
So according to Dumont, the reason why they made this trade was because of character and culture. In my mind, the way teams win is by focus, by having the right character, by having the right culture, and having the right dedication to work as hard as possible to create a championship winning outcome. And if you're not doing that, you're going to lose. If you look at the greats in the league, the people you and I grew up with, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal, they worked really hard every day with a singular focus to win. And if you don't have that, it doesn't work. And if you don't have that, you shouldn't be a part of the Dallas Mavericks. Now, he was doing great when he said Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Kobe Bryant, but Shaquille O'Neal was notorious for his lack of work ethic. Kobe Bryant hated Shaq for this because Kobe was consistently in the gym working his off, and Shaq not so much.
Technical question here. Let's see how you can answer this. Who would Shaq be if he had your work ethic?
He'd be the greatest of all time.
Kobe was a beast. Nobody worked harder than him. But I think you can find success in many ways. You know, for me, I had 8 hours of work, 8 hours of business, 8 hours of family. See, Kobe was just getting married, getting into his family. I'm already 4 kids in.
And this is something that Shaq even admits. He was known for never working on his free throws. He was known for not trying to lose weight. He was known for gaining weight when he was with the Lakers. And he still had a dominant career, and he's one of my favorite players of all time. But Shaq was never known for working hard. You know who else isn't known for working hard? A 3-time MVP in Nikola Jokic, who looked like he was in shambles when he had to celebrate his own championship.
And if you're looking forward to a parade coming up in Denver.
Venice parade? No. I need to go home.
Who claims that this is just a job to him.
What do you remember about maybe your first or second media day coming around here? Just has anything changed at all?
No, every year is the same thing, and I don't know why we're doing it every year. Everything is the same, completely the same thing. So
I mean, this isn't anything against Nikola Jokic, and personally, the reason why Kobe Bryant is my favorite player of all time was because of his work ethic. But this notion that you need to have an impeccable work ethic in order to win a championship is a bunch of BS. So trading away your star player for peanuts on the dollar just because he decided to have a beer after getting your team to the NBA Finals is ridiculous. And to be honest, none of his teammates felt the same way. Just look at what Kyrie Irving had to say following the trade.
Basketball, it just shows you that basketball is not just a game to certain people. It's a spiritual experience. It's a connector piece, you know, and they watch their favorite players and they want to see them forever. So I err on the side of just understanding where people are coming from, and I didn't see everybody getting ejected or certain fans getting ejected, but I think it's just part of the process, man, of what we're all dealing with as not only players but fans in Dallas, man. But we got to move forward and put our best foot forward.
And things are about to get way worse. I mean, Kyrie Irving could opt out of his contract following the 2026 season and enter free agency in his age 33 season. So expect him to be shopped around if the Mavericks are fully undergoing a full-scale rebuild. Luka Doncic's father said that him and Doncic have already moved on.
Kar se tiče tega trada, jaz moram reči, da vse to, kar se pogovarjamo tu z Lukatom, enostavno, to, kar se je zgodilo en let nazaj, to se je v bistvu že pozabljeno. Ta grenkoba, ki je bila v tistem momentu, bil je šok, ampak to je tudi na koncu koncev legitimna pravica vsakega kluba, da svoje igralce nekako trade, če niso zadovoljni. Ok, se je zgodilo to, kar se je zgodilo, življenje gre naprej. Luka se je zelo hitro prilagodil, seveda tudi Lakersi kot organizacija. Samo pri tem delajo res vse na temu, da se ti dobro počutiš.
But the worst part of all is the Dallas Mavericks seem to have been lying to us. Apparently, the only team that this trade package was offered to was the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, according to Gary Woeful, the Mavericks also reached out to the Milwaukee Bucks, but the Bucks made it clear to the Mavs that they wouldn't trade Giannis Antetokounmpo even though his future with the team is murky. Which is just crazy because you would think Nico Harrison would say,
"Oh, wow, Giannis isn't willing to commit to the Bucks. and despite that, the Bucks remain committed to their franchise player.
So we have this once-in-a-generation type superstar that's willing to sign with us once his contract is over, and we made it to the finals last year. Maybe we should reconsider this. They also tried to trade with the Timberwolves, but the Timberwolves weren't going to include Anthony Edwards. So following this insane trade, and the fact that Anthony Davis got injured in his debut versus the Houston Rockets, Maverick fans have been very, very upset with the Dallas Mavericks. You've seen fans giving a funeral for Luka Doncic as a result of the trade. You've seen some fans being very delirious about this, and I don't really blame them, because as a Laker fan, when I see Luka Doncic on the court wearing a Laker jersey, I'm still in disbelief. And it's like instant dopamine to me as a Laker fan. I mean, I don't think I've been this excited about a trade since the Lakers snagged Pau Gasol in 2008. I mean, I don't think I've loved a Laker this much since the Lakers had Kobe Bryant. And that's nothing against LeBron James. I have my own reasons for it. I have a lot of respect for LeBron, but LeBron kind of hopped from team to team to team, whereas we traded for Luka Doncic, and it seemed like he wants to be here for the foreseeable future. Nothing against LeBron James, but I'm just rationalizing why I'm so excited about Luka personally. Meanwhile, Mavericks fans are angry. According to Tim McMahon, a crucial game versus the Sacramento Kings, where both of these teams are essentially neck and neck for a play-in spot, there have been 3 instances where the Mavericks were booed by their own fans. The first was when Mavs governor Patrick Dumont returned to his courtside seat. The others were when fans were escorted out of the lower bowl by security and they didn't see why. Now this is where it gets crazy, okay? A Mavericks fan got escorted by Dallas Mavericks security, and this is something that might be routine if a Mavericks fan is being obnoxious. But in this case, all this Maverick fan is doing is chanting "Fire Nico." Fire Nico! Fire Nico! Mark Cuban sees him chanting "Fire Nico" and tells him to sit down. And we actually interviewed Chris in order to get his account as to what happened. So the first game you went to, their recent game versus the Sacramento Kings.
If anything, again, it felt sad and depressed, and it felt like a funeral.
You know, you're sitting a little bit ahead. You can see the back of Mark Cuban's head from where you're sitting. There's footage that went viral of you getting taken out and escorted out of the game. So take us to the moments leading up to that. What exactly happened?
But we had a very specific conversation before going in. I talked to him and I said, look, we need to make sure that we're not violating any rules. We don't want to give them an opportunity to even think about kicking us out. So we do have to be calculated. I've always kind of yelled some stuff. Mark Cuban actually put out a thing on Twitter today that did acknowledge that he's heard me before at previous games. Later on in the game, I stood up and tried to get a Luka chant going for like 15 seconds. Luka, Luka.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was doing stuff like that once or twice a quarter, you know, leading up to the fourth quarter. But as we approached the end of the game, we definitely had plans of trying to get a Fire Nico chant going. Okay. But I knew, based on what happened Saturday to fans, that as soon as we did it, there was going to be issues. This is the reason Mark Cuban got upset at me, is because we did it while the Mavs were shooting free throws in the fourth quarter of a close game. And I want to address this because I understand the frustration and I understand him wanting to protect his players in that moment. But they are purposely playing music louder and at different times in the arena to keep fans from having an opportunity to chant. They did it on Saturday and they did it Monday. I didn't create this environment. The Dallas Mavericks and Nico Harrison created this environment. They're not allowing fans to express themselves in really any way at all. But that's the only time in the game that I had the opportunity to do it. And we took advantage of it. And I stood up and started yelling, "Fire Nico!" And then 5 people joined me. And I'm definitely the loudest in the group. We probably had 40 people chanting with us. Mark Cuban stands up out of his chair, looks directly at me. We make eye contact. Like man to man, I know he's like doing this to like, yeah, I'm looking at you. And he goes, sit the F down. He mouths it. He's looking dead at me. I went crazy and I started pointing at him. And there's a picture, I need to get the original, where I'm standing up and pointing at him. I start pointing back at him and I say, no, you sit down. This is your fault. You did this. I never used foul language one time during the entire altercation. I never used anything indecent or derogatory. And these are all the key words that are in the NBA Code of Conduct for how fans are supposed to behave, but also for how fans are supposed to be treated. So once I get into it with Cuban, I get swarmed by Dallas PD, and that's when I started recording because I felt very uncomfortable, and they surrounded us. And if you watch my 4.5 minute video that I posted, or maybe it's 3 minutes, when security starts coming towards us, you can hear a security guard, if you listen in the first 10 seconds, say, do you want to walk out or do you want to get dragged out?
I have not violated any NBA Code of Conduct rules tonight.
Before they had any civil type of conversation with us, they just said, you're out of here. That was the first thing. And then they just swarmed us in the video. I didn't break any rules. I'm not leaving. And you can hear me in the video. I didn't even cuss during the 5-minute altercation with the police. No foul language. If anything, I just kept saying, no, thank you. No, you can hear me say it 3 times. No, thank you. I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving. I did not violate any NBA Code of Conduct rules tonight at any time that I was in the building. They're asking me to leave, and I did not violate any rules tonight. I have not violated one rule in AAC tonight.
It went from 0 to 100 real fast after 5 minutes, and I really thought the cop was about to get his cuffs out. I thought it was going to escalate.
Okay, we're not going all that. No, we are. They're asking you to leave. No, if you don't leave, we'll go to jail.
But I had told myself going into the night, I'm not going to get arrested.
You can see things got really hostile between Chris and Mark Cuban, and he eventually had to be escorted out. Now, Mark Cuban tried to save face here by saying there are thousands of fans booing the guy that was yelling, so it sounded like the fans were booing the players. They weren't. They were booing at another fan. Right, you're telling me fans that have been really disgruntled with your organization, just trading the face of their franchise less than a year after making it to the NBA Finals, are mad at the fan for starting a Fire Nico chant? I mean, if you look at this video, you can see that fans are enthused by the Fire Nico chant.
Fire Nico! Fire Nico!
Mark Cuban tweeted out that thousands of fans were booing you, which, by the way, like at face value, sounds so absurd. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to know, like, whenever you're going on social media, there's not a single happy Mavericks fan out there, you know, like, from your perspective, were any fans booing you?
To think that he could put out that statement, thousands, there was barely thousands in the building, my guy. Which is also absurd that he said he didn't know what I was saying when him and I had an altercation, because you can see him clearly receiving the information from me and him say, no, you sit the F down, completely aware of what I'm saying, even from 25 rows up. Just to be clear, it's 19 rows, okay? The only time there was a boo is when the guy that got on the Jumbotron during karaoke and was able to mouth Fire Nico, they got kicked out. And every time, including when I got kicked out, all the fans in the section booed. That was the only time there was boos, was when fans were getting removed.
And according to Chris, they were telling fans that anyone that says Fire Nico would get escorted out. I wonder why.
So I've been a Dallas Mavericks fan for the last 4 seasons. It was peak Mavs time last season. It was crazy out here in Dallas for sure. 98% of the time I'm at the game, I'm cheering for the home team and going crazy for the Mavs and supporting with my time, my energy, my money, pouring into this team, into this local Mavs Twitter community that I've been a part of. And I've met so many friends, but you can't help in Dallas and DFW. It feels like somebody close to us died, was taken away from us.
Were you at Anthony Davis's debut versus the Houston Rockets?
I did not attend that game, but I've seen video and heard firsthand accounts from friends of mine that did get kicked out of the game, that they were told they couldn't come into the game if they had a Fire Nico shirt on unless they covered it. or they were not allowed into the building. And then when people tried to chant, they got shut down by security and many were removed from the arena.
Now, Mark Cuban continued to say that I stood up to see which fans were booing. It was this guy, as you can see from the video. I didn't immediately say anything. That's because the one guy was screaming at me. I don't know what he was saying, but he was pissed. He was at least 60 yards away from me, so there was no point in yelling, but I made sure he could read my lips. My only goal was to get the guy to sit down so fans could focus on the game instead of him and support our Mavs. The game was close, and we didn't need half the arena booing at this guy instead of cheering for the Mavs. When he shut up, the fans went back to normal. So let me add, he was screaming all game prior to the fans starting to boo him. In fact, he screams all game every game, usually stupid, sometimes clever, but he never shuts up and hasn't all year. We didn't kick him out then because other than being annoying, he didn't disrupt other fans. This time it impacted the game experience of other fans. Now, Chris would explain what was the annoying clever stuff that he was yelling.
That's when I stand up and yell, "Put in Luka!" I'm close enough to the bench that everybody on the bench hears me. The players look up at me when I do it. And it's funny when Luka's on the Mavs, but in street clothes. I just think it's a funny troll, and I'm just there to have a good time. Luka's my favorite player, and the Mavericks are my favorite team. So it's all in jest. It's all in fun. But when I go to the game on Monday and I think, wow, that little put in Luka troll that I've been doing earlier in the season, it's going to hit different tonight. When I put in Luka and he's not on the team anymore. So that was the first thing that I did. No, actually, first thing I did in the first quarter was like maybe 6 minutes left. Somebody's getting ready to shoot a free throw. It got really quiet and I stood up and I yelled, "Put in Anthony Davis!" And it got a little uncomfortable. It was awkward, clearly, because they're getting ready to announce he's probably done for the year.
But at the end of the day, man, it's just looking worse and worse. I mean, this is a PR nightmare for the Dallas Mavericks at this point. Because they made this terrible trade, Maverick fans are clearly upset about this horrible trade, and they're trying to save face, but they're just making things worse and worse. So tell me, was there any aftermath to this? I know you told me this is still going on, but did anyone from Mavericks PR reach out to you?
But the story that developed today, and this is actually, I haven't shared this with anybody yet. Nobody knows this, is that Cuban got on Twitter this morning and responded to an article that Grant Afseth put out, a detailed article about the incident, about what happened, and basically doubled down on all of the lies about what happened and continues to say that we were booing. My friend that got kicked out with me, he told Cuban, "Look, DM me and let's talk about this like men." They had a long discussion, and at the end of that discussion, Mark Cuban gave him courtside tickets for tonight's game. And Mark Cuban did kind of apologize a little bit to him about how maybe hostile the arena staff was with us. And so I told Garrett, I said, "Look, can you please send him a message if you guys are still communicating and just say, hey, look, Chris is willing to have a civil conversation with you." And he responded back and said, "I have no interest in talking to him at this point, not after I saw his video." Turns out the video he was talking about is after I got kicked out of the game. I went live and I did a video where I basically said, "Look, I don't know who you think you are, Mark Cuban, but you don't even own the team anymore. F you, F Nico." And I was like, "You don't have any pull in Dallas anymore, Mark. Nobody listens to you out here anymore." I was dropping some heat when Daniel Gafford went down with his knee injury. It was by far the quietest moment. We had about maybe a minute where it was just dead quiet in there and everybody was worried about Daniel Gafford. And I looked at Garrett and I said, "Man, this is the quietest that it's going to be this entire game. And out of respect for Daniel Gafford, I'm not going to say a word." So it's not just like I'm some blowhard fan up there just trying to raise hell. The Dallas Mavericks are using what I would consider a heavy hand to put down the fans' response, to not let them grieve. As soon as people think they're over it, AD had his debut. The next day, Patrick Dumont puts out the statement. And then the video of Mark Cuban joking with Bill Gates. And we were ready to get over it. And then Mark Cuban wants to start cussing at me at the game and lie about it. And they're the ones that are keeping this story going. And so I don't want it to get lost. Fans are not being treated well. And for the spotlight to be on the fans of Dallas and Dallas Mavericks fans. I appreciate y'all having me on. Go Luka.
At the end of the day, it's truly astounding to watch a team completely self-destruct in just a few seconds. So let me know what you guys think about this trade in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.